Hi, everybody, and welcome to our author interview with the author of A Fatal Fumble by Nancy Basile. Did I say your last name right?
You did.
Good. Perfect. All right, then. I get a gold star to start this
You
interview.
did.
So let me just do a little quick intro of Nancy. I want to just read out right out of her author section in her book. So Nancy grew up in a place in West Virginia that was so small, the 4th of July parade marched around town twice. Okay, so that's pretty funny. She fell in love with mysteries at an early age, reading Encyclopedia Brown, then moving on to Nancy Drew, also me, then reading every single Agatha Christie, even the short stories. Although she lives in Amos Country with her husband and 2 children, she still calls the hills of West by God, Virginia home. And so that's where we'll start. So Nancy, why don't you start by telling us about A Fatal Fumble and what the story is, without giving away the ending?
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't do that. Well, it kicks off after the first book in the series, Roadside Homicide.
Nice.
Yes, in which a wedding takes place. The main character's sister gets married. And in this one, the main character, Robin Pearce, comes back for the school's 100th homecoming. And there's lots of homecoming festivities planned for the week. But she mainly comes home to see her sister perform in the football game's halftime show. But of course, she ends up stumbling across a dead body while she's there. And it's an old friend of hers. And she gets caught up in the mystery. And she ends up helping investigate it against the hunky sheriff's wishes because she needs to clear her name because she ends up being one of the suspects.
Nice. So it's a very exciting, cozy mystery. I'm in the middle of reading it. Now, I do want to highlight the awards it's won. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I submitted it to the BookFest. I was very excited about that. The first time I heard about it was in the magazine, I believe, the Independent Book Publishers Association magazine.
Okay.
But then I saw it on Instagram. They had a huge lit up billboard in Times Square. And I was like, I got to be a part of that. That's very exciting. So I submitted it for the LGBTQ mystery because I do try to write an inclusive book because I believe in an inclusive world. I believe in writing the world that we inhabit now, not, not a world that, harkens back to another time. So the main character's sister is gay, and her wedding was to her love of her life, another woman. And so I submitted it to the LGBTQ mystery, and I tried to forget about it because, you try not to get your hopes up about that kind of thing. But then I won, and it was very exciting.
Yes, and in 2 categories, right? You got
I took first place in that.
Yeah.
And then I took second place in cozy mystery and in amateur detective, which also blew me away.
I know, like to get two.
Yes, there were hundreds of submissions, they said, and I was like, so very, very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah. And so how did you find out about it? Did they email you? What happened?
They were so cagey about it. It was very fun. They announced it during the BookFest, which was online. So I tuned in to the YouTube Live and was on pins and needles to see what was going to happen, and saw the announcement that I won. It was pretty cool.
Did you just felt faint?
I screamed in my living room. I'll tell you that. My husband and my kids were like, what the heck is going on? It was so fun. They didn't send emails. They sent the email like after the announcement.
Mhm.
It was very fun to find out that way.
I bet. Like, talk about nerve-wracking, because you have no idea. Like, you have no idea, right? You don't know what else is submitted.
None. And I submitted it just under the wire. So I was a little bit like, oh, maybe I sent it too late. Maybe they already read their favorite, or so it was very exciting.
Yeah, I don't know the strategy on that. And you sort of hope it doesn't, as long as you're before the deadline.
Yeah.
Every book should get the same shot at it. But and it's really just a tremendous validation of how good the story is, and also your writing. That it's such a big dream accomplishment that
it really is. Even after you publish, it's crazy because every single time you write a book, or every time you put words on the page, you still think, I'm faking this, or I'm fooling everyone, and I imagine other authors go through that. I mean, I can't speak for other authors.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Every time a review from a reader comes in that's, a good review, I read that and think, phew, okay. It did its job. I got them, I entertained them. They liked it. So it still continues.
And Robin, the main character in this book, is entertaining, and her relationship with the sheriff is just perfect.
Thank you.
It really is fun to read.
Thank you.
But there's also lots of depth to it that you can feel. At the opening at the football stadium, you can feel it. You can hear it. It's all there. So it's got all the elements in there of what makes a good story, which is why it's so fun to talk about as well, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So you've got the first book,
Roadside Homicide.
This is book 2. And then what happens next?
What happens next is it picks up after, of course, A Fatal Fumble. I don't want to give too much away about the end of the book.
Oh, no.
But the couple, her sister Jen and her wife Deb, end up making some changes in their lives, and they end up buying a bed and breakfast. And so in the next book down the road, that will become the setting for some more Agatha Christie closed room kind of murder mystery.
Nice. And it's a great town that it's set in, so everybody's going to get to know it well. And
yes.
So where are you in the writing process with book 3?
I am in the draft process. I outlined it, and I plug for Fictionary. I love using Fictionary to create my outline, because learning about the story arc and the inciting incident and the different plot points, I always knew about the inciting incident and, the climax and all that stuff, but being able to try to plot out the more middle parts really makes a difference. And reading the blog is very, very helpful to me to try to, and the analogies they make to other works, to try to say like, okay, this part needs to be more exciting, or this part needs to be do or die, or, something needs to happen here. So I was able to use it to outline and then come up with the draft. I'm not a pantser by any stretch. No. That would terrify me. That would absolutely terrify me.
Right. Now, when you outlined, did you name scenes in Fictionary, or how did you do it? What was your actual process?
I start with Dabble. I start by naming scenes in Dabble, and I write in Dabble, and then I take it into Fictionary.
Okay.
And see how I did.
Nice. Okay.
And then I label everything in Fictionary. I use all the tags, all the toggles, all the fields. Oh my gosh. It helps me so much. There are so many tools there that help me, One of the key elements in A Fatal Fumble that really helps me, believe it or not, is word count. Because I noticed that there were scenes that really weren't that important that were taking up huge, had huge word counts, and important scenes that didn't have big word counts. Mm-hmm. And scene settings. Too many scenes were set in the same place for too long. Yep. Or what's another one that's, how scenes start and how scenes finish. Being able to break that up a little bit. And create more variety. So I start out and dabble, but then when I bring it over into Fictionary, that's when like the real kind of massaging, editing, reworking, where do I need to add scenes, move scenes, take out scenes? That's where it starts.
That's fantastic. And I love to hear about the word count per scene, because that's exactly what it's for. Because in a Word document, you can't see it. You just can't.
No,
it's just a thing. And the other thing I get from writers is not just the word count for pacing, but also the scenes per chapter. And sometimes there's just too many scenes in a chapter and it doesn't make sense. And when you actually see it, you're like, oh, why does that scene or that chapter have so many scenes? So I'd love to hear that you're using those things. I can certainly see reading A Fatal Fumble that you're really good at entry and exit hooks, getting in the scene, getting out of the scene. And then you think, oh, I have to read. And last night I was reading, I'm thinking, I really got to go to sleep. Okay, one more scene, right? You think, oh, but I just really got to go to sleep. Stop, put that down. You can read again tomorrow.
I do try to keep it fast paced. I do try not to drag very much.
Yeah. And in any genre, that's super important, that it doesn't matter what genre, it still has to be a book where people want to turn the page, whether it's a slow burn, character introspective, there still has to be something in there that's tension, and it doesn't have to be in your face tension, but something that you're going, I gotta see what's going to happen here, right? So wow, that's really, of course that totally thrills me when you say something like that.
Yeah, I was thrilled to discover Fictionary. I found out about it at the Women's Publishing Summit.
Okay, yeah.
In 2021.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was fairly new. I was new to writing. I hadn't published the book yet. The book was written, and I was getting my way through it, but I hadn't published. So I was trying to find out like how to do all of that. And, whole worlds were open to me when I discovered these tools. And it was like, what? There's all of this help out there, online to do these things. And it's really made such a huge difference.
Well, you certainly learned quickly, because, having novel 2 already being award winning is pretty amazing accomplishment.
Oh, thank you.
Pay attention and learn things. That it's writing a novel, it's really, really hard. And I don't think people who don't write a novel get how very difficult it is. And even to just get a first draft written is a huge accomplishment. And then to figure out what to do with it, which is why we created Fictionary, because I struggle with that. You're like, yeah, great, I got 80,000 words. And I just kept rereading. I don't know how to make this better.
Right. Is it going anywhere? Is it making sense? Do things connect? Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I struggled. So let me ask you the other end of the process. So when you exported your novel out of Fictionary, what was your next step on the publishing journey?
My next step is to take it into ProWritingAid.
I love them. But anyway.
Right. So when at that publishing summit, you did a webinar, I believe, with the
probably,
I don't know if she's
ProWritingAid.
Yes, I think so. And I find that tool very helpful. I find that they work best together. I don't think I could do one without the other.
Right.
But ProWritingAid I find very useful for grammar, and it helps me with inclusive language. Specifically, I'm an old dog, and sometimes I miss things, and it reminds me of things, and I go, oh, hey, I didn't know I wasn't. That's a great suggestion. Thank you, ProWritingAid. It helps better my writing sometimes. And so after I have used all of these tools myself, then I take it to an editor, or then I take it to readers for feedback.
Right.
I don't think that you can skip that step, but I think that all of these tools get you further along so that you don't not waste time, but you don't spend as much time, and you hand them a much, much, much better book than you would. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I totally believe in that, in the sense that if you've edited your own work, both from a story level and a copy editing level, you will have a much better relationship with an editor if you choose to go that route, because you're speaking the same language. You understand the feedback that they're giving you because you've already tried to do it yourself. And it also makes the editor work harder. The better the book, the harder it is for the editor. When it's a book that needs a lot of work, it's much easier because you can see it's obvious, well, this needs to be fixed and this and this. But a book that's farther along is much harder. You know, for me, it's exhausting when I'm doing that with a book, because you have to think so hard, like, okay, how am I going to help this person make it better?
Well, and you get much more valuable feedback if they're not in the weeds with the basic things.
Absolutely. And so you can do those on your own.
Yes.
And I think also the revision process is easier when you get all of your feedback from an editor. You're not spending time researching, going, well, what is this point of view thing, or what, you know, whatever it is. You're already there. You already know it. You're like, okay, I can go as soon as it's back. I get this. And you could also make a decision of whether you agree with the editor or not.
Yes.
Because, you know, you're the artist, it's your book, and the editor's not always right. And
That's
I am
true.
an editor, so I know this, right? Like it's a collaboration, and the author gets to decide always, right? And sometimes,
and the same thing with the tools. There are some times that I say to ProWritingAid or Fictionary, I'm sorry, but I'm sticking with this. I'm sorry. I know what you're saying. And those tools also help me as I'm writing the next book, because of the work I've done with those tools.
Right.
I get better and faster each time.
Which is, I mean, that's tremendous. That's part of the goal. And I do want to highlight what you said about the tools are there to guide you. They're not there to tell you or dictate what you have to do. It's a guide, and it's to help you open up your mind and think about different things and figure out what's best for your book. All of them should be used as a guide. That's it.
I have a funny story. So I was interviewing editors. You know, it's like anything else. It's, you know, finding the right one to work with. Everyone's different, and you got to figure out if you click. And I mentioned Fictionary to an editor who is a little older, and she rolled her eyes, and I immediately thought, nope. Yep. I felt like I was back in the day when the printing press might have been introduced or something, and they were like, no, the devil's tool or something like that, you know. And I just thought, I don't think we'll be working together.
No, and it's really important what you're saying is that you do need to interview editors to see, are they a good fit, and not just from what they know about story, but from what they know, how they are in working with you. Like, are you going to be compatible, right? That it's super important that you're kind of on the same wavelength for stuff like that.
Right.
If you're not, it's a problem. And I've turned away clients when you get to know them a little bit and you think, you know what, I don't think we're a match. I'm not going to be good for you. It's just, but I can recommend some other people who I think would be a fit, but it's not me personally, right? It's like any tight relationship. You should really check it out first.
Right, exactly. Yeah, beyond just sending them that first chapter, you know, to edit. A lot of times you can tell just from that, but I thought that was very funny.
You know, and it's a tricky thing that lots of writers ask me, how do I choose an editor? And, you know, my question is also first, like, what kind of editor do you want or need? You got to know that first. And then the second thing I say is, if you're looking for a story editor, you ask them, will they look at your story arc and explain it to you? Because that's the biggest question. Do you have a story or not? Got to answer that first, right? And then everything else comes behind it. But, you know, it's a very important decision if you're going that route, because it's expensive too. And it's also, it's your book. Yeah. Well, you want to,
you want to grow, you want your book to grow. It's a tricky balance.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So we know your books. Why don't you tell us where people can find you and where they can find your books?
My books are on Amazon. I am part of the Kindle Unlimited program. So you can search for Roadside Homicide or A Fatal Fumble and you'll be able to find them. I also have a website, nancy-basile.com, basile.com. And I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm very little on Facebook. And I have recently introduced myself to the world of TikTok.
Good for you. All right.
So I believe I am author Nancy Basile on TikTok.
Oh, how fun. That's good for you. I haven't done TikTok yet, but I love it.
Oh boy.
I bought books that are like #1 on TikTok just to see what TikTok people like.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. I tell you, it's very easy to open up TikTok and then find yourself, many minutes later going, what was I doing? What?
Great.
Hello? It's a lot of fun. And there are a lot of great readers on there.
Yeah.
A lot of great supporters for all kinds of authors, traditional, indie, just wonderful readers.
Yep. And to me, some of them, I think there's a lot of young readers, and I think they're going to be the next generation of writers. If you love to read that much, that's what's coming from this group. Like, it's so exciting for me to see that next group or generation coming through that loves books. Yay.
Yes. And their reviews are intelligent and intuitive and just wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's spectacular, really. It's really a great phenomenon that it's exciting because there is so much excitement around books and reading. We know how good that is. It's just good for you as a human. So I will, once the interview goes up, I'll put links to your website and to the books. And everybody who buys and reads this book, please leave a review because reviews are very important.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you, Nancy. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Christina.